The moon was full and bright that night, casting an eerie glow on the deserted streets of the small town. As Emily walked home from her late shift at the diner, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. She quickened her pace, her heart pounding in her chest. Just as she was about to turn the corner onto her street, she heard footsteps behind her. She spun around, but there was no one there. She must be imagining things, she thought. But as she turned back around, she saw him. A tall, shadowy figure standing in the middle of the street, his eyes locked onto hers. Emily froze, unable to move or speak. The figure took a step towards her, and she finally found her voice.
Who are you? What do you want?
She stammered. The figure didn't respond, but continued to advance on her. Emily turned and ran, her feet pounding the pavement as she sprinted towards her house. She could hear the figure's footsteps getting closer, but she didn't dare look back. As she reached her front door, she fumbled with her keys, her hands shaking. Just as she was about to unlock the door, she felt a hand on her shoulder. She screamed and whirled around, but there was no one there. Shaken, she stepped inside and locked the door behind her. She leaned against the door, her heart racing, trying to make sense of what had just happened. She didn't know who the figure was or why he was following her, but she knew one thing for sure: he was not going away. From that night on, Emily started to notice strange things happening. Her car would be moved from where she parked. Her phone rang, but no one was on the other end. Her window would be left open, but she never opened it. She tried to ignore it, but the feeling of being watched never went away. One night, Emily was closing the diner and walking to her car when she saw a shadowy figure leaning on her car. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The figure stepped out of the shadows and into the streetlight. It was a man, tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. He wore a long, dark coat and a sinister grin on his face.
"I've been watching you, Emily,"
he said, menacingly.
Who are you, and what do you want?
Emily asked, her voice trembling.
"My name is Jack, and I want you,"
he said, taking a step towards her.
Stay away from me.
Emily said, turning to run. But Jack was too fast. He caught her by the arm and pulled her to him.
"You can't run from me, Emily. I will always find you,"
he said in her ear. Emily struggled, but she couldn't break free from his grip. She felt a cold knife pressed against her throat.
"You will be mine, Emily,"
Jack said, his breath hot on her face. Emily screamed for help, but no one was around to hear her. She was trapped. But just as Jack was about to strike, a police car pulled up and an officer shouted,
"Let her go."
Jack let Emily go and ran away into the night. Emily was safe but shaken, and she knew that Jack would be back. From that night on, Emily was always looking over her shoulder. She would never feel safe again. Jack was a serial killer, and he was determined to make her his next victim. Emily started to receive letters and gifts from Jack, all signed with love. She went to the police, but they could not find any evidence linking Jack to the gifts or the letters. Emily was left alone to deal with her stalker, who had now become a serial killer. She installed cameras around her house and changed her route to work. But Jack always found a way to be one step ahead of her. He would call her on the phone and hang up. He would leave her notes on her car. He even broke into her house and left a rose on her pillow. Emily was living in constant fear, and she couldn't take it anymore. One night, Emily was home alone when she heard a noise from the living room. She slowly made her way towards the noise, her heart pounding in her chest. As she reached the living room, she saw him. Jack was standing in the middle of the room, a knife in his hand.
"I told you, Emily, you can't run from me,"
he said, a wild look in his eyes.
Please just leave me alone.
Emily pleaded, her voice shaking.
"I can't do that, my love. I need you,"
Jack said, moving closer to her. Emily knew she had to act fast. She spotted a vase on the table and grabbed it. throwing it at Jack's head. He stumbled and fell to the ground, giving Emily enough time to run out of the house and call the police. The police arrived just in time and arrested Jack. He was sentenced to life in prison for his crimes. Emily was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that she was safe and Jack would never be able to hurt her again. But the memories of her stalker, the serial killer, would haunt her forever. She would never be able to forget the terror that he put her through. The memory of him will always linger in the back of her mind, reminding her that true monsters are real and that they can be closer than we think. Thanks for watching. Please support this channel by liking and subscribing. We got more scary stories for you to enjoy that will shiver your body while you try to sleep.